On the screen before you is a rather unique event. $200 billion wiped out in 20 minutes. We're talking about Ashton Leopold losing $45 billion and how that was impressive. This is $200 billion wiped off of Alphabet Incorporated in 20 minutes. Now, what cataclysmic event happened? What world-breaking news? Well, we're going to get into that today and more. But first, I got to welcome you to Ruben Tech, where we meet at the intersection of tech, politics, and finance. Please be sure to like and subscribe down below. Okay, the news that broke this was simply this. On X, Demis Hassabis announced that he will be stepping down from the CEO role, okay, to go to chief scientist of Alphabet in general. CEO of DeepMind. So he wrote, I've been working towards AGI my whole life, and as we enter this pivotal moment, he believes AGI is close. I'm stepping into a new role as chair of Google DeepMind and chief scientist of Alphabet in general. This will allow me to focus on long-term strategy and accelerating scientific breakthroughs. And then he goes ahead and he says, the breakthroughs that he's been striving for his entire life is hopefully to cure cancer and to cure other human sickness and ailment. So that was one thing. Demis Hassabis stepping down. Some people wrote it off as he was leaving the company. Not true. However, Jeff Dean is leaving the company. Jeff Dean wrote today, roughly around the same time, tomorrow will be my last day at Google after 27 years, and watching it grow from 25 people at 190,000 to 190,000 plus has been an amazing journey. Below is a note I shared with many people internally at Google today. An excerpt is, and then he goes on to say that he's going into a new role with the startup, of which Alphabet will be in the initial funding round, and of course be contributing compute towards. His new role, if you're interested, or his new company, is going to focus on AGI applying the scientific method. Both of these two guys are considered straight scientists more than anything. And so what you have here is two very important people at Google changing roles or leaving. And that caused all of a sudden just boom, a storm on Twitter. We see a first adopter writing here. Today is the day Google died. Best of breed talent is going to wonder why Jeff Dean left. It's a huge blow to Google's reputation as a place that attracts elite talent. We also see from here, Tenobris wrote, Demis is ousted as DeepMind CEO, and Jeff Dean plus Sanja are leaving Google to start a NeoLab. They're all being very careful to frame these as positive shifts, but there's no way in hell Demis would have accepted this willingly, and there's no way Sundar happily accepted Jeff Dean leaving, is what he wrote. Now, how does this guy, rando on Twitter, know this about Demis, right? He just puts this, and he puts it as he was ousted, as if he was forced out. There's absolutely no evidence to back that up. And of course, Martin Shkreli comes in, and he is, believe it or not, Pharma Bro is the voice of reason. By Google, as much as I have respect for Dean and co, which is a lot, Google is bigger than any person. Further, losing these fine engineers may result in the board of directors asking what is going on here and changing management or making other changes which course correct for the better. Now, my opinion, I absolutely agree with Martin here. To think that any one person in this space is bigger than the space is ludicrous and nonsense. As much as I respect people like Demis and Jan, nobody, not the DeepSeek CEO, not any of these guys are bigger than the space. The space entails now many talented researchers. Having one all-star does not put you ahead of anyone else, okay? It's all about who has, the most people working cohesively and the best vision. Then we also have this on X. We have Karthik Ramasay writing, I'm bullish on Google after today's departures. Google has a big issue of a lot of OGs sticking around for too long and making no room for new talent. Google has to discover new Jeff Dean to lead for the next 2 decades. 25 years is too long for a non-founder to work in a company. Glad to see Jeff as a founder, bullish on both Google and Discovery Loop. That's Jeff's new thing. And I tend to agree with this too. Even the founders of Google have stepped down. To be in there for 25 years and not be something like Sundar, right, where you're literally at a CEO role, Doesn't make any sense. At some point, you need to move on. I'm not saying anything about Jeff's talent. He's done amazing things. Many of the products I use are because of his innovation. However, that is a long time to be at a company. And there is something about having new blood, new thoughts, new ideas. Pedro Domingo writes, DeepMind's takeover of Google research is now complete. This is exactly what I thought. You see, when Google, they're kind of like a holding company, almost like Berkshire Hathaway. And so when they buy these companies, they don't incorporate them fully. They allow them kind of to keep running their own structure subsequently. That's why Demis was CEO of DeepMind. But it's not like he was controlling Google internally. And now Pedro's writing this, and Pedro, I believe, works at Google, that for a while, DeepMind has been putting people into these pivotal Google roles. And by Demis becoming basically the lead scientist, the head of Google research, we know that the Google DeepMind team is stacked over there. They basically control Google research in whole now. And that's extremely important. I'm going to get to why in a little bit, but I want to see more reactions from Twitter. Okay? Here we have Sebastian Malaby writing, to those who are selling Google today, a cautionary tale. In 2016, Google was thought to have suffered a blow to its autonomous car ambitions. Anthony Lewandowski, a key contributor, quit and later joined the rivals at Uber. Fast forward to today, and Google's Waymo cards lead the category. Now that Anthony, he was one of the biggest talents out there. Very interesting character. He started a church of the AI, right? Where he believed that AI would be a god within the next few decades, and we all better kind of prepare for that to happen. He also stole secrets, I believe, from Uber or from Tesla, from one or the other, and took it to the other place. It was part of a big, major thing. I think he actually went to jail for a while, but then was pardoned by Trump. Interesting individual. Chamath Palapatha, I can never say his name, but Chamath, he writes, as said earlier, AGI is now at hand, so these moves are logical. Okay, for CEO Demis Hassabis to step down. But again, other people on the other side, oh shoot, I forgot the other one. We're writing things too. And we'll come back to this in a second, but I want to give you my take on this situation now. There has been rumors internally that Google has been facing a lot of pressure within the organization. And as much as I've told you, they have all the tools to win things. There is this notion we've seen throughout the decades that big companies, often when they're required to be agile, they will fail. And Google is kind of, some people, I guess you could say, they're starting to experience this a little bit. And so these right here, what I'm going to tell you, nothing is investment advice. These are just rumors. These are just kind of things, little words and tidbits coming from some Googlers themselves over on X and Thread and Blue Sky, whatever. But the word is that Google is so constrained for compute that this is causing many issues and infighting within the culture. So when you're in Google, it's not like you know everybody there. There's 190,000 people. And so you're fighting for their TPUs. Remember that Google has the best TPUs in the entire world. Nobody in China comes close. Nobody in America comes close. But they don't have enough TPUs for their own internal services. And the reason for that, well, that's causing a lot of conflict, is that the board of directors, as Shirkelly was pointing out, is looking at profit now. So remember where I said Google reported this fantastic quarter? And for stockholder, that's absolutely great, right? But there's people in Google that are like, we don't want this. We need that compute. For all the naysaying of all these people who say there's not enough compute, Google doesn't have enough compute. That's why at the end of June, they finally made that drastic decision, cut away hundreds of millions of dollars of Facebook spend, of Meta spend, and said, we have to recapture this compute. Because what's going on is that their TPU usage is going through the absolute roof. I've told you this for 2 years, over 2 years on this channel. As much as I have respect for China, they're not even close. They're not even sniffing Google's TPUs. Much as I have respect for Jensen Huang, he is so far behind. And now Google has secured up to 15 million TPU orders in 2028, which is actually projected, and this is a rumor, but to exceed NVIDIA. But here's the problem. One, how are they going to build them? And two, what about their internal demand? Again, people inside Google are scrambling for these TPUs, but at the same time, the board of directors is like, hey, we rent all these out to Anthropic, we rent these out to Facebook. Look at our margins. They will pay anything for these. We are getting NVIDIA-esque margins. And rightly so, because they outperform NVIDIA's best chips. But do you see the tension that can build there? And some people believe this is why Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro is late. Is that simply put, Demis's team could not capture enough of these TPUs. And so they were struggling to keep up with people because they're too busy renting them out. And this is causing other conflict too, because it's not just Google DeepMind that needs it. All the other products within Google wants these TPUs too. Remember, all of Google's services run on these TPUs. Again, they literally have the best TPUs in the world. It's not even close. Even China, with their advantage in electricity, cannot make up for the advantage that Google has. So maybe they can with NVIDIA, but they're not even close to where Google has. So you have this premium product that everybody wants. Everybody. Anthropic started tasting it last year, and now they're like, yeah, we need more. And Google actually had to shut OpenAI off from some of it. And then OpenAI threatened. Word was they threatened antitrust. Hey, you're blocking us from this. We compete. That's not fair. So now they have opened it up to Anthropic. Now they've opened it up to Meta, which is great from a revenue standpoint, but it's not so great if you are dying. If you are dying to use these internally for your own products, of which they have many, many products. 13 products with 1 billion users needs these TPUs. And so the rumor goes that finally, Demis, by stepping down, he doesn't need to be doing CEO business stuff. He's going into the Google org now directly, taking over research. As Shirkelly says, this should be a wake-up call to the board of directors that, hey, we have the advantage right now in TPUs. China could be catching up, NVIDIA could be catching up. Right now, we have the advantage. We need to recapture as much of this as we possibly can. And apparently that's already happening because they've started training Gemini 4, and they made a specific coded announcement to those of us who know about this strife that they are laying out as much hardware has ever been laid out for training any model ever. In other words, they are not TPU constrained as they have been in the last few models, which is extremely important. Because this is much, and this is why I point out to people, you're listening to naysayers, you're wrong. This is the most important space. Listen to this DeepSeek founder who said that AI will touch every single part of the global market. Every single part is what he said. Listen to these people in the know, and you'll realize that, yeah, profits today are good, but we need to be sure that when this product comes in the future, that when AGI comes, we are ready. So I actually think these are good moves, personally. Demis taking over Google Research, becoming the lead scientist there, the head of research, being able to secure as many TPUs as he needs now, setting that pressure on the board of directors that, hey, our internal projects, this moment happens, it's going to matter more than the margins you're getting from Meta, than the margins you're getting from Anthropic, than the margins that you're getting from OpenAI, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, think about this. Google Cloud right now, they don't have enough compute. They actually secured the second round of securing from SpaceX, who has overcapacity because nobody uses their AI. Alphabet went back for more capacity on top of what they already have. And SpaceX charged them 2x their initial contract, is the rumor. And Alphabet had to pay it because they're so desperate. They're so desperate for compute. So if you're that constrained and you got the smartest engineers on these teams telling you it's coming, AGI is close, it would be absolute insanity to not sacrifice margins now, especially when you're Google and your balance sheet is a literal fortress. Is a fortress. If you need money, just sell your Anthropic shares. Boom. There's $100 billion right there. You already have $200 billion in cash equivalents. Another $200 billion in investments that you can, sell. So that's my thought on this. But I think there's valid criticism coming out there. I do think people went too far. Demis was not ousted. I would see this as him saying, when he wrote that post, I believe that's from the heart. He's saying, hey, AGI, we really think it's here. We really think we're going to get there within a few years. And if you read his book, his lifelong goal has been to help cure cancer and other diseases. It's a personal issue to him. You can read his book and see why. But that's a noble cause. And so if he thinks it's here, why does he want to be shuffling papers? The guy's a scientist. He doesn't need to shuffle papers. Now he can get exactly what he needs to make this final push. I think that's good. And Jeff, as far as Jeff goes, I'm surprised he didn't leave already. You've been here that long. Most of those people already go off to found their own companies. But I don't think it's really a huge, deal. The company he's creating is basically going to be a subsidiary of Google, as they're going to lead the initial funding round and provide them with the compute for the first year. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. The criticism I do think is valid, though, is the fact that if there truly is this much internal strife, and we do know that there's strife, right? They are competing. That's a known fact. But if it's truly as bad as kind of what's being said on X, and if they really are that compute constrained, they're spending $190 billion, but they still need that much more. And if the board of directors gets their way and they're like, hey, we want these fat margins now, we're willing to sacrifice the future, that could be the opening that an OpenAI needs to come in and start capturing market share in the consumer space. Right there, that could be it. Okay? That could be Sam's chance. That could be his chance to strike. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All of you out there, as always, have a great day. Take care.